Welcome everyone to today's performance clinic, Dynatrace and Power BI, Taming IT Change Risks Through Automation. I'm Andy Grabner, been running these performance clinics for a while now, and I'm always happy to have new guests that bring in new topics that make the life of our Dynatrace community easier. And today I have Imran. Thank you so much for joining in the beautiful beach wherever you are. Imran, I really want to actually, pass it over to you. It's going to be very exciting. Just a reminder, ask questions. If you watch this offline, feel free to reach out to us. You have our Twitter handles, you have our names. I'm pretty sure you figure out how to get a hold of us. And with this, Imran, I have no real clue. I know a little bit about Power BI. I know it's really powerful in visualizing data. I know Dynatrace has a lot of great data, especially our Davis AI engine analyzing root causes. You have your Smartscape, you have your metrics. So show us how you help customers to do more with the Dynatrace data.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, everyone. My name is Imran Khan. I'm a consultant of our services team. And let's get started. So for our agenda, we'll just take a quick overview of what the reporting is, how you can take advantage of this new feature, and then we'll look at the architecture and requirements, and then we'll go to the interesting part, actually live, seeing how you can collect the data and then build visualization in Power BI. Following up, hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A, and yeah. So this is a sample problem page in Dynatrace. This is an auto-detected problem with our AI causation engine called Davis. So you can kind of see the amount of dependencies Davis analyzed to come to this problem, saying that we have 8 applications that are being affected, affecting 8 different services and over 376 impacted users. So all of this information that Dynatrace is collecting, and especially if you are an enterprise customer or a big client, you may have thousands of problems in the last couple of months or so. So all these problems, all this great data that are coming from Dynatrace, be able to tell that story, understand pattern, that's where this new advanced reporting with Power BI comes in. So with this, it's a very easy integration, fully automated. You can see some of the use cases I put down here on this page. You can see how the problems are trending, what kind of root causes, the top 10 root causes, or your MTTR, meaning mean time to repair, things of that nature. You can understand exactly which applications are being the most problematic, which servers, all of those things. And not only just for problem API, but also like your metrics API, time series API. You can collect data from host API to understand how you have deployed hosts, their trends, and the areas. And the other cool thing I like about Power BI is that you can filter on almost visually anything: management zone, applications, problem category, tag, of course, time. And here's a sample architecture with Dynatrace API. You can kind of see these are going to be different parameters that we use and provide. So you provide your time zone, then the API endpoint, and all of this happens in Power BI. So when we make a query from Power BI, it connects to Dynatrace, of course, with your token and information, and then it loads the data and lives in Power BI. So we don't really have to do any like converting or exporting data, nothing like that. Everything lives in your Power BI file. Of course, you can export that to Excel or CSV, anything you want after the fact as well.
Hey, Imran, just one question came in. The question is, why can't we do this with Dynatrace dashboards? Why do we need to depend on Power BI to achieve something like this? And maybe I want to take the first step and then you can add to it. So Dynatrace, there are solutions out there that are amazed that have just been doing dashboarding, and obviously they are great in dashboarding. And this is where, for instance, Power BI comes in, and they provide certain capabilities that we would love to have in Dynatrace, but all of these dashboarding capabilities, I think, don't make sense in Dynatrace. Now, you can do a lot of things in Dynatrace. We have powerful dashboarding. You can create your dashboards, your charts. This is all there. But I think for specific use cases, it makes sense to then reach out and also see what can you do with the Dynatrace data in external tools. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't want to build these things into Dynatrace. We want to learn exactly what are the use cases that we should include in Dynatrace natively, but starting with building the next big dashboarding solution, that can do every bells and whistles, I think this is also not the right approach. So yes, to answer the question, it would be nice to have more power in our dashboards. We already have a lot of power. I did a power dashboarding session last week where we saw what is already possible and what's coming. But we just wanted to use this here as a showcase what you can do on top of the Dynatrace data with powerful visualization tools that you may have in your organization. You don't, but if you don't have it and you say, then it might not be something for you. Imran, what do you say? What do you say about
Yeah,
this?
no, absolutely. Very, very nicely put. Again, like you can watch some of the previous performance clinic on Power Dashboarding, or just follow our documentation on how to really create a great dashboard. Those are all available. And I've talked to some of the product team, some of these, especially for the problem one, like be able to put the problem data into dashboard. Though some of those things are coming, but again, like Andy said, our approach is not gonna be for 100% like every bells and whistles for dashboarding in Dynatrace. So these are just one example of the Dynatrace data, how you can harness that with Power BI or other dashboarding tools and visualization tools. Okay. So as for requirements, really it's very simple integration. So you just need to have Power BI desktop downloaded and from Microsoft Store. And I believe it should be free, especially like if you have a OC 365 account already. And then of course you would need access to Dynatrace tenant and a token to query the API and report template. So some of the templates that I have already built with different API endpoints. If you want to access some of those will demo in very soon. If you want access to those, then you can reach out to your Dynatrace contact, either CSM or account exec, or if you have a guardian, just anyone. And Power BI Premium subscription, if you have it, fine. It's not necessary, but it does allow you to get some automation, like automated flows, sending report automatically to customers, things like that. Okay. Yeah, and now the fun part, hands-on. Now, before we go there, any question from anyone?
Yeah, there was one more that just came in, and it says, does this approach work if all we have are on-prem agents, or does it require us to enable Dynatrace APIs? So I was just about to type it, but thanks for allowing me to quickly say something. If you have Dynatrace One agents installed that monitor your environments, that means this data is sent from the One agents to your Dynatrace platform. That means if you see the data in the Dynatrace UI, you can build Dynatrace dashboards. You can have Dynatrace analyze the data, alert on things. And if that's the case, then you also have the API available, which then allows you to do on top of what you already have, the stuff that Imran is going to show you. So the use case here is you're getting the data from the Dynatrace API and not from an individual agent, because the agents are all sending the data to Dynatrace. And then you can do the powerful dashboarding, because the dashboarding is not just about a CPU metric, right? You will see a lot of things. And this is also where I think we see the Dynatrace magic. In case you're not familiar with Dynatrace, Dynatrace is monitoring 1, 1,000, 1,000,000 different microservices, and then is giving you problem data, root cause analysis. And while you can already do a lot of things, we can do more things on top of the data with this visualization, but it works through the API.
Yep, exactly. Good question. All right, so let's go to sample, go to full screen. Okay. So this is a template that I've built using our problem v2 API endpoint. So on this, all you are seeing, everything that anyone with Dynatrace access have already have access to this data. So this is from our Dynatrace demo environment. I'm looking at information all the way back in October through today. And you can see the amount of problems we had on this environment, on this tenant. This just shows you the last 2 hour. So it looks like we have 5 or 6 active problems in the last 2 hour time frame. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, you can filter by different management zone. And this is what I love about Power BI. Everything gets filtered. Everything is so clean, and like everything has tooltips. You can see. So looking at this chart, what I'm showing here is just a monthly view. So it looks like my 27th and 28th are somewhat of a problematic days for this Azure management zone. And I can hover on it and see how each of the months, so looking at it, it looks like December, we had the most problems on the 27th of December. And then the next one, it looks like the same trend. And so with this is where this next kind of visualization comes in. Of course, we have all of this information in Dynatrace already, but this is just taking this and putting this into a nice visualization to be able to do this kind of data analysis that is a little more advanced than what you would just get with the built-in visualization in our dashboards or problem page. And then you can see how each of the months had different problems, they're trending. You can understand the root cause analysis. And one of the key KPIs for any companies would be, okay, how's my MTTR, how I'm actually, we are using Dynatrace to identify all these problems, but how are my teams actually using that information and how quickly they're solving the problems, solving those incidents. So you can understand how those trends have been evolving. Let's see if I can find a different one. Customer A. So on this, I also include some, so these kind of trend lines. It looks like both of them are trending downwards, which is good to see. You can see the availability status or severity status, and all of these filter easily as well. Now, this template has kind of like the same kind of full stack approach here. So your application, how things are performing on host level, application level, how many alerts we're sending, those kind of things. And details is just showing you all the problems without any visualization, just on a table format. If you just want to see, okay, what are my problems? And another thing I've done on this template, be able to actually link directly to that problem into your tenant. So if I click on this, it will actually take me to our demo environment. You can kind of see the URL on hover there. So host view, that shows you all the problems that came from the host. So looking at this heat map, I can see this OpenStack host that had the most problems, over 39 on this time frame that I'm looking at. And again, all these are being possible because Dynatrace is automatically monitoring this information for you. So you don't have to do anything to understand where things are coming from. And taking advantage of our powerful tagging, you can create some of this visualization, give your data some meaning, and be able to tell that story with all this data that we're collecting. Same kind of information from our applications perspective. So you can see which applications are the most problematic, how you can, like what you can do to, so you can filter on just one of them and see what are the problems, how long they're lasting, what are the root causes, what are the entities they are affecting, how long it's actually taking us to solve those problems, things like that. And on the alert page, I'll go into some questions right after this. So this page just shows you all the problem alerts that Dynatrace have sent out to your teams based on the problem notification that you have integrated either with email or ServiceNow, Service Manager, any tools that you have. And you can see what were the MTTR for alerts for problems that actually ended up being generating an alert for your team. Okay, yeah, so any questions so far?
Yeah, a lot, actually. So I think the first question that I want to summarize 2 or 3 that came in. Where does this run? Is this something for Azure Power BI online, or is this just on the desktop? I think this is something where people have questions. Where does this live? Do I need to upload my data to Azure, or do I do it on the desktop, or are both versions possible? What's happening here?
Absolutely, great questions. So in general, the way I have these templates done, they live in your desktop or workstations. So as long as you have your Power BI desktop downloaded, this file will be in that workstation, like wherever it is. Now, of course, you can collect the data. So I think this would make more sense. What we are doing in this Power BI report, we are collecting data directly from your Dynatrace environment or Dynatrace API source. So we are not going to any Azure, no other data source, directly using Dynatrace API. And I will show that exactly how to get that started for your tenant just in a second. But yes, if you want to use Azure Data Lake or some other data sources, you can store these data. Then you're basically eliminating like one step that we would be doing from here. Instead of connecting data from Power BI to Dynatrace API, we're going to be connecting Power BI to Azure or whatever data source that you have, like a database, something like whatever that is. Yeah,
And
good
then
question.
other questions came around. So what do we actually need on the Dynatrace side? The only thing you really need is have access to the Dynatrace API. So that means, obviously a token that can extract this data. But I think as this is read only, the token requirements are probably very minimum, just to read like problem feed and whatever else you're pulling out here. But
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for this particular one, I just use version 2 API endpoint. So all you need is your URL for the tenant and a token with V2 read problems access or permission.
Perfect.
Yeah, so why don't we go to Power BI desktop and show you exactly how to get this started. Yeah, and on my Power BI slides, I also had a requirements page that basically showed you the requirements. It's only two or three. Okay, so once you have Power BI downloaded from Microsoft Store or other data store, like wherever you download it from, then when you open it, first thing we need to do is get data, and then we're gonna be using a web connector. Now, in future, we plan on creating a Dynatrace connector that will be in PowerBI.com. So you could use that, but for now, we'll just use this web connector. So when I click on it, it's gonna ask me for information. My Power BI is lagging a little bit, but let's just go here. So hold on, let me just minimize and bring it back up again. Cancel.
And while you're doing this, thanks for asking all these questions. And also Sebastian, he said, just want to say this looks awesome. And it's really, so folks, this is really a performance clinic today to show you, in case you're using Power BI already, for instance, right, what can you do with it? Coming back to one of the earlier comments, why is this not available in Dynatrace, right? This is not about showing you what's available in Dynatrace, but what can you do with the Dynatrace data in external tools that provide some awesome capabilities. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you have this web connector, then we would want to click on advanced, and I'll tell you why. So just like any other API tool like Postman or others, we'd want to put our request URL, and I'll show you what this URL look like. So you will have your tenant URL, then our API, and then what version, then API endpoint. So for this demo, we're gonna be using problems API, and after that, you would want to put in your time. So start time, I'm just gonna use a relative time now minus 4 months. And with V2 API, our page limit per page is 500. So we'll just do the max amount here. Now, the reason I'm using advanced and not just the basic everything in the URL is to be able to put in my token in a authorization header instead of putting it on the URL directly. It's just a security measure, a best practices, but you can do either or. So authorization, and then same authorization, API token space, and then I'll just put my token here. This is fine, you guys
We
can
all close
see
our
it.
eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's from my demo environment. I'll change this. And once you have all of this information put in, you just do hit OK, and this is gonna load and bring the API data directly.
Brings me to another question as this is loading. Somebody was asking, how often do you refresh the data? Can this be used for near real-time dashboarding, or is it more on demand? So I know that you've built some automation, Imran, as well, to constantly pull in data, but maybe you wanna then tell people like what's the typical use case here? Is it more for you are analyzing a certain time frame, maybe every Monday in the morning you come in and then you automatically generate all these reports, or can you also do this more near real time?
Yeah, absolutely. So refreshing, that can be done automatically. So I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget.
Mhm.
All right. We will go to that just in a little bit. Because yes, absolutely, you can refresh this automatically. You can set a schedule refresh to have the data set refresh like every hour, every 30 minutes, every day, every week, whatever the use case is for you. Yeah, so we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, once the data loads, you will see something like this. So right now I'm seeing 160 problems that I had in last 4 months. Now this is from my demo environment. So this is probably not gonna be as realistic with your customer environment, but just to show here. And then what we want to do, this is where our data is actually in this list. So click on the list, and then you can see all of this. Each of these records are actually individual problems data. So from here, what we want to do, if you have used Power BI already, you know some of this, like how to expand the data. But if you are new, then all you have to do is just convert to table. Then these records are going to be brought into a table format. And then you just expand and so all these are all the information that came as part of the API payload. So I have my problem ID, title, impact level, all of these key information for those problems. So I'm just gonna, for this demo, I'm just gonna bring everything in, and there we go. So I had 160 problems in the last 4 months on my demo tenant, and these are the problem ID, exactly what those problems are. Now, because there's so much information on this, you may want to say, okay, I don't really need all of this. I only want to get my root causes, then expand those. We don't really need the entity ID. We only need the name. Name meaning just like, okay, what is my actual root cause? And then you probably want to get the management zone to be able to easily filter on things. And
Or is this
then
something you have to do all the time, or is this something that you set up once and you have a template, or however this is called in Power BI?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. This is just like we're doing the first time for the first time. Now,
Mhm.
if you use my template, all of these are done automatically for you,
Oh, that's
those
cool.
kind of visualization.
Mhm.
But if you are just getting started, then yeah, first time you do this, but then after that, you don't really have to do anything. And I'll show you how new data is loaded as well. Let's see what else we want to bring. Yeah, that looks good. Now, before I load this data to Power BI, you would notice that any kind of API, we don't really send time in a like a human readable format. This comes in as a UTC format.
Mhm.
So what we can do is actually changing this time to our human readable time, your local time. And I'll show you how to do that. But before I do, let me remove this column one prefix. So that, okay, there you go. So now it doesn't have that column one information there. Uh, so
Li-
you had
li-
to
Live
do
demo,
some of
live,
those.
live demos are always tricky, yeah. But it's great that you
Yeah,
show
it
it to us from the scratch, because people that may want to try this themselves from scratch, they want to know how this works, and obviously you have the templates, so that's
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened is because I removed column one prefix from each of the columns, the next steps, they were just saying, hey, what am I referencing? And I don't have any
mm,
column one value there.
yeah, yeah,
So let's just get this real quick. Okay.
very good.
Yeah, like once you get this done, then things become really easy. Now, to convert this time from UTC to human readable time, I have that code already written, so I'm just gonna copy and paste it here. And on this advanced editor, you can see all of the steps that we're performing. So that expanded management zone. And yeah, like you have to really keep in mind this kind of referencing, because Power BI is really strictly about um, those. And one point here, this kind of information, like all the things we're doing on Power Query, they can be done for Excel or basically any of the Power Platform that you have. Let's see, management zone one. Oh, there you go.
And I'm answering some questions here in the meantime. So somebody was asking, in general, the Dynatrace API is outputting the results in JSON, but you can specify it through the, I think, accept header on what type of format you want, whether it's Excel or, sorry, JSON or CSV. I think there's different ways how you can export the data in the Dynatrace API.
Exactly, yep. Yeah, for this one, I'm just using a JSON payload.
JSON, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so right there, from our start time, this UTC format, I just converted that to something that's human readable. All right, so this is our data table. This is in Power Query. Let's just close and load, or close and apply, I should say. Okay, and as you're loading this, this is basically building all the relationship, all those tables and rows for you automatically. Okay, now once this loads, we'll have to put in our visualization, because right now we have nothing here. So let's just put a card to get us started with. Okay, I was like, I'm selecting. Okay, so let's see how many problems we had total. So this is on this field area. That's where you will see all of the problem information that we just brought in. And instead of first, we want to do a count distinct. So right there, 160, as we saw on the payload. So that's our problem, count of problem ID. And we can put a bar chart. Let's see there. And we can put axis would be our date. There we go. Start time. And this one, I need to change the format from text to date time. Okay, that's fine. All right, so now we want to see how our problems have been trending over time. And let's do distinct. Want to do a hierarchy. Expand to next level. So you can see quarterly view, you can see the monthly view, or you can see the daily view. So this is where you can see November, not so many, and then December, January. So January looks like I had most of the problems. So looking at something like this is what this kind of advanced visualization helps you understand, like what happened really on January? Why did I have all these problems? So this is be able to take all the data that Dynatrace already collected, just doing more analysis on that. And we can remove the quarter. So this is just a very quick and dirty demo here. Now, like I mentioned before, the template that I've built already, that has all of this nice visualization, background, everything done for you, all those filters. But if you want to get started from scratch, this is how you can get started. And then as for refreshing, so here's going back to that question. If you want to refresh this data now, you just hit refresh. And then it's gonna make the same API query that we just did, and it's gonna bring in more data for you. Now, obviously, since we're just doing it in a few minutes, my demo environment didn't have any new, but if we had any, this will be shown here. And for automatic refresh, that's something you would have to do. So when you publish this report to your Power BI service, then you can set up some of those automatic ones. Now let me go back to my template. And so this is the template that I was referring to. I have all of these things built using the same queries. Another thing I'd like to show here, so all of these things, you can parameterize this information. Now let's say, okay, I don't want to see last 4 months of data, I want to see last 1 month of data. So to change that, you would have to actually change the URL, request URL that you put in. Now you can obviously parameterize those things and just change things as you would for other like a web application. So like right here, I would have to go to the source and change this time here. What I've done on my template, however, so let's see. Okay, there. So on this, what I've done is actually parameterize this whole report. So when you download this, let's see, edit and oh, you know what? I can't do it on Power BI service, but this is this. So what I'm showing here, just to be clear, I have built this report on my Power BI desktop and then published it to Power BI service. So I can view this on browser or share this with my customer or team members. So on this, if you want to change how this is refreshed, then we would need to go to our data set. And so this is my data set for that template report. Go to settings. On here, you would see this schedule refresh. So right now, I have it set up to refresh every morning at 8 and every afternoon at 4:30. So you can change this incrementally weekly or daily, and then add other time to do every hour, every 30 minutes, things like that. Okay. Any question?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. I know this is obviously now a lot of Power BI specific things. The questions are around how do you take care of page sizing, right? If you have a larger page size than 500, how can this be done? Have you figured this out in your templates?
Yeah, great question. So luckily on my test environment, I didn't have more than 500 problems. Otherwise, I would have only seen the first 500 on this query because I'm doing last 4 months of data. Yes, so short answer on this template, I have this done. And while we're not gonna go through exactly how to do it on this webinar, but just a quick answer would be yes, that is possible. You just basically have to write up some custom functions and to make that loop and collect the next page key if you have any things like that.
Okay,
So
so
you
that means
can,
Power BI gives you the capability, and then in case people are interested, then I think the best is anyway, if people really want to do this, they should then reach out to you anyway because of the templates and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we can help you out with those. And you know, like this is gonna be same kind of use cases for other API endpoints. Like if you want to chart time series metrics or like audit log, security management, so on and so forth. Yeah, so let me go back to our slides. Okay. So here are some other samples that I have done. These are other templates. So we can show things for like host trending, like how I have deployed my host, depending on like how many environments I have, how many host units I'm consuming. Then this report on this right-hand corner, this is showing you all the audit log report. So how your users are, how many logins you have, how many logouts, how many configurations or updates, things of that nature. Then on this bottom left, this is showing you the account management report, meaning like, okay, I have 10 different security groups. What are the management zones? Who are the users for that group? So just be able to put them in a nice report format. And then on the bottom right is our forecasting. Now, this is something it would not do justice if I just show you the screenshot. So let me take you back to the browser. Okay, so and here's the host report, the template, and you can search by environment or tenant and then see all the results. So here is the forecast template. So this is forecasting our, again, all these data are coming directly from Dynatrace that your one agent is collecting automatically using our Davis AI engine. So this is showing you a first chart. trend for next 90 days for problems, and the bottom one showing you the MTTR forecast for next 90 days. So you can kind of see how all the way from whatever timeline you are selecting on. I'd recommend, because with any kind of forecasting and predictive analysis, you would want to have a lot of data. If you are running this report, this forecasting for only 1 month of data, you're probably not gonna get a good view. And if you are asking, okay, what kind of forecasting it's doing, so this is built with Power BI's built-in forecasting algorithm. I think they use smoothing. Oh man, what was it? Smoothing algorithm, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but this is just using Power BI's built-in forecasting. You can run your own forecasting, like own neural network, neural engine, and do all this with this data that you collect from Dynatrace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's zoom in a little bit. There you go. So you can see how our trend have been and what kind of forecasting we might see for our problems. You can filter them by management zone or by environment if you had the need. So you can see everything change for that. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, a couple of questions. First
Yes.
of all, this is recorded. So I posted the link to the recordings where they will show up either on university.dynatrace.com. You can go to Dynatrace on-demand webinars and you will find them there probably tomorrow or on Friday. Then also we'll put them on the YouTube channel. It's the Performance Clinic YouTube channel. And I have a bit.ly link that I sent there as well in the chat for everyone to see. That's the first thing. There's a couple of questions on how can they get access to the templates. I think the best probably is to reach out to you and then have a conversation with you on the templates.
Yeah, that, or like if you have a local Dynatrace contact, like your CSM or Dynatrace One Premium product specialist or your account executives, or just like you have a guardian or consultant on site, you can reach out to those mediums. Or yes, yeah, of course, you can reach out to me as well.
Mm-hmm. Then there's some questions on the API tokens, like what type of tokens do we need to create for what type of scope? I guess this completely depends on what type of data you want to pull in. I mean, you started in the beginning showing some problems, so that would be the problem API. But if you want to
Exactly.
pull in some other data, hosts, metrics, it depends really what data you want to pull in, right? I mean, I know you focused a lot on problems in the beginning, because there's some nice use cases. But in general, what this webinar is all about is showing you that you can extract all the data from Dynatrace through the API and then feed it to tools like Power BI to do what these tools are good in. For instance, forecasting is a great example here. And this is why, you can use any, I assume, Imran, you can use any type of data point for forecasting if it obviously makes sense.
Um, So yes, this would have to be more of a time series matrix.
Yeah.
And of course, like there are some limitation on what kind of date format and things like that. But yeah, with things that are actually important that we collect from Dynatrace, like your response time. Let's say if you wanted to see how your failure rate or response time is gonna perform, yes, absolutely, you can definitely do similar ones as well.
Mm-hmm. Then some question is, have you created any template that would be consumable via the Power BI mobile app? Have you played around with that as well?
So all of these visualizations, they are built primarily for desktop now. I didn't have enough time to get to the format this to mobile view per se, but that's something that we can easily do. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would mention that when I review these reports on my Power BI app on phone, it actually doesn't look that bad because all of these are very clean and you have easily filterable slicers or drop downs.
Mm-hmm. Then Kevin is also asking, I think I mentioned this earlier, the near real-time. Is it possible to do near real-time reporting? And I guess it depends on how often you refresh the data.
Exactly.
Right, that's up
Yep.
to you. Then there was also another question, if you poll Dynatrace API a lot, does this impact the Dynatrace performance for collecting data, processing data? No, because these are completely separate from our architecture. So data ingest, data processing, and data queries are completely separated, and we have no problems here with with scaling.
Exactly.
Then can you download this into a report and send it to different stakeholders? I have, I guess, working units where we had to create an Excel report of this to top 10 problems and cascade it to different teams. So is there an option, I guess, in Power BI also to send out reports?
Yes, you can do that. And that's what I was saying initially on my slides. Some of the automation, like if you want this to be 100% automated, like you don't have to touch it, nothing, like you just say which emails you want to send this to on whatever time frame you want it, then you can use Power Automate to automate this full report 100%, like all the way from report refresh to sending reports either in PDF or PowerPoint or PNG format with Power Automate. Now the caveat with that is you would need a premium subscription from Power BI to be able to do that kind of automation. However, let's say, okay, I have this data, this report, I just want to share a PDF of my report with my stakeholders or my managers, so on and so forth. You can just hit export and export this as a PDF file. And whenever you need to send this, you just send it that way.
Could you do me a favor? Can you open up the Dynatrace UI quickly? Because there's a
Yeah,
question on Dynatrace problems. And
absolutely.
I think because I know we talked a lot now about visualizations that we can do externally by extracting the data
Yes,
from Dynatrace. But if you look at the Dynatrace problems screen, then first of all, some of these basic use cases are, I think, covered in the Dynatrace UI. You can trend
correct.
problems over time. You can filter them on all sorts of loading profiles, management zones. So you get your data, right? This is a beautiful dashboard here. So in case I know the first person may have asked, why do we need Power BI? Dynatrace obviously does have dashboarding and some great built-in capabilities. Now, the question that just came in was on a Dynatrace problem itself. When Dynatrace detects a problem, can it also detect the change that caused that problem? So for instance, you're deploying a new version of an app, you're making a configuration change. Can Dynatrace then also correlate and find the causation, the root cause of that problem to be a deployment or a configuration change? And the answer is yes, right? If you open up any of these, I'm not sure which ones are a
Yeah, I'll
good
just open up
example.
this.
Yeah. Then what is here under the root cause section, I've been advocating personally for the last years in integrating Dynatrace in the change management process so that every time you deploy something with a pipeline, make a configuration change, deploy a new version, run a load test, or if you have maybe some process tool like ServiceNow where you approve, you can send these approvals, these change requests to Dynatrace. And if a problem is detected by Dynatrace, it will automatically look for what has changed. And if it gets additional information from your tools, like who changed it, who changed what, then this will also show up here exactly in that problem as a root cause, linking back maybe to your Jenkins pipeline, to your ServiceNow ticket that somebody has approved. So this is all, this will all show up here. But you want to send additional information to Dynatrace as you make the change. So this was this question. I think the questions around the next pages, these have been done. If you, from Jimmy is a question, if you set up a data set in Power BI service in Azure, how do you get access back to the API in your company's DC, right? I guess, how do you, from the online Azure service, talk to the Dynatrace API?
Um, from the Azure one, I haven't tried that myself yet, but I think they would be somewhat of a similar. Like if you're trying to do an API query, then the request URL would be same
The same, yeah.
regardless of what tool you use. Um, so it would be still your tenant URL and then the token, the time frame you want to use, like any parameter you want to put in, like what kind of entity. So it would be same. So this is what you would have regardless of what tool, what connection you would want to
Yeah,
use if you are
yeah,
using Dynatrace API.
exactly. And then the other thing, just asking again the performance impact question. There is no performance impact if you query the Dynatrace API, because as I said, architecturally, we have separated the concerns in data ingest, in data processing, and then in data access. So that means you can access the data and you can pound the API. At some point, we are rate limiting our API, just as every sane architecture, right? So that means that this is all safeguards in place, but you won't be able to kill Dynatrace. Next question. I'm struggling with visualization of the pod process JVM data for the Java app deployed in the OpenShift cluster. Since app name, pod name are dynamic, I need ability to set cluster namespace and then from a dynamic dropdown select the specific applications or pods. I guess so. The question is, Oleg, first of all, if you have very dynamic names and if you want to streamline that in Dynatrace, you can create naming rules for your individual entities, right? So a good practice, for instance, for your container-based environments on OpenShift is to define naming rules that say, hey, I want to name a service or a pod or a process based on namespace dot, some Kubernetes label or OpenShift annotation. So you can definitely get some stability and sanity into your naming. That's what we are advocating for as well. And maybe to you then, Imran, if you have, let's say, hundreds or even more different combinations of names, I assume then Power BI obviously will just allow you to have a drop down and then filter based on these.
Yeah, I think it's gonna depend on like what data source we're collecting it from.
Mm-hmm.
And then based on that data source, there should be a field where you would have that like drop down either as a tag or as a like a naming field. So for an example here, let's see. This one I'm filtering by management zone. So you would have something similar on that as well, or like a problem category. So you would have those annotation or labels identified as a drop-down list. So yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So it just depends on like where exactly that information is stored on the payload.
And that's a question that comes in, I guess, from somebody that is rather new to Dynatrace, asking where does this data come from? So like the magic behind the scenes, if you quickly maybe want to walk over to Dynatrace and just show what the environment looks like.
Absolutely. So this is our demo environment in Dynatrace, and I'm going to go to my Smartscape page because that will help visualize this a little better. So as promised with Dynatrace, we monitor all the way from your application to data center level. So we can see with one agent installed, we can see all your processes, all your servers, all your services, everything end to end. So with Dynatrace One Agent installed on servers, we are already monitoring all of this information. Now, with this information, then comes to all of these pages, like how are my services are performing, or like what kind of problems I have from different services. I guess like we can speak so much of like what Dynatrace and how things are collected, but it's just
the most important thing is, right, we have a lot of data and we do a lot with this data. We automatically detect problems. We give you nice overviews like this that allow you to better understand what is actually happening in the environment, who deployed what where, what are things running smoothly or not, are they impacting end user experience. This is exactly what Dynatrace is built for. Collecting data from different data sources, fully automatically connecting it through our dependency map, through our Smartscape, through our PurePath technology, automatically doing problem detection, automatically analyzing root cause. We give you the capability of doing great dashboards like this. But there's so much data, and we wanted to just show you with this today what else you can do on top of this data, because this data is not only available within Dynatrace, powering all of our root cause analysis, our automation use cases, but you can use it as well for your use cases. And this is why I think it's great that we have an open platform where you can push data, you can pull data, the data is yours, leverage it.
Yeah, that single pane of glass, really.
Yeah, and this is actually a great dashboard here that you built. I need to look at this. What's the name?
This is our built-in one. This is from our demo. But there are a lot of ones. like especially with the previous live webinar that you had for Power Apps.
Yeah.
So like something like this would be really nice to see. Okay.
Good.
So let's see. And here's a quick sneak peek of, so the template that I've shown, this is just a next phase, you can say. This is just a much more cleaner design. And not only that, it's gonna have a lot more other endpoints. So like your, basically like a scoring system, so to speak. It'll be a report where you would see based on the deployment changes or configurations or AppDex rating, we'll have a like a report type based on scores, how things are performing. It'll be more for like, okay, let's say you want to send a report to your management or to your key stakeholders and see how things are performing. So just a quick sneak peek.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And there's also another question from Moritz. When will Dynatrace dashboards by default be better reportable? Right, there are a lot of improvements in the dashboards also around reporting that are being enhanced all the time. I have actually a schedule, a meeting, a performance clinic scheduled with our product managers on the latest on dashboarding and reporting. I did one last year, so I think I'll try, every couple of months to do a new update. And then Moritz, if you have specific questions, there's also on answers.dynatrace.com a specific page that is maintained by the product team around the dashboarding, where they show you what they're doing in terms of reporting and dashboarding. I know more reporting capabilities are coming. I also know that definitely reporting right now is not our stronghold, right? So that's also why we are opening up our data platform to enable things outside the box, outside of the Dynatrace box, but we are improving. And I think this is the thing. So Moritz, if you have specific use cases, then let us know. I can also connect you with the right PM teams. But a good way is to go to answers.dynatrace.com. There we have a page for reporting and dashboarding of what's coming and what's planned. Good. Hey, Imran, this was amazing. I think we went through a lot of questions. We almost consumed the full hour. I think it's great to see what you can do with the Dynatrace data. This is very important. And I know there's other integrations that people have built on top of Dynatrace on the API. And I'm sure we'll have more of you and also others back and show what you can do with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great pleasure. And thanks everyone for all the great questions. It was really interactive session. So thank you.
And to follow up, right, you have our names, you have our Twitter handles. If you're a Dynatrace customer, Imran, as you said, and you want to try this out because you're using Power BI, then, talk with your CSM, talk with your AE, talk with, your Dynatrace contacts, and then, we'll make this happen or reach out to Imran. Good.
Awesome.
Thank you. With this, happy St. Patrick's Day. It is March 17th. In case you want to celebrate with the Irish, then I suggest you're taking a cold beverage because that's what they like to drink over there and enjoy it. At least that's what I will do.
All right.
All right.
Cheers, everyone. Take care.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.